G'day guys, how's it going? So in this video, we're going to start looking at how we can better organize our code in Rust. And the first thing we're going to cover is something called a module. So what is a module and how and why should we use one? Well, essentially a module is a way that we can group set functionality together, right? So we can say in this example here, we've got a function that prints out some results. We have two functions that do calculations, and then we have one that's supposed to call an API of some sort, right? So we could technically say that these two functions here are calculation functions. Therefore, they could be grouped under a calculation module, right? Because they are related to each other. However, these two functions also print the result, so that means that this would have to come with it, right? Now, the add and subtract are also called by main, so they will have to be available to main. And this call at API is essentially just here to indicate that this could be part of a different grouping, right? Such as, I don't know, calling REST APIs. So, with that in mind, how do we actually create a module in Rust? Well, there's a number of different ways we can do it, but I'm going to show you the easiest way first. And then in future videos, we'll expand on it until we know everything about modules. Okay, so what I want to do in this video is I want to take these two calculation functions and I'm going to group them into my own module, and then I'm going to call them in main accordingly, right? So to create a module, and I'm going to do this at the very top of the file, use the keyword mod to identify a module, and then you give the module a name. So in this case, I'm going to call it calc. Then I'm going to have the curly braces to indicate that the contents of this module is going to be contained inside these curly braces, right? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the two functions that I want to have in this module, and I'm going to paste them in here. Cool. Now, it's going to indicate here at the moment that there's an issue because now we've got a scoping problem because print result isn't in the same scope. So modules also create scope. So we need to bring in this print function into the module scope. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to save. All right. So now we're in a position where we've got this module called calc. We've got the three functions that are in there, and everything seems to be sweet. There's no errors within the module. However, down below, we can see that we've got some errors here. So now it's saying cannot find add in this scope and cannot find subtract in this scope. Now, this is because these functions are in the global module, the overall module for the entire application. But add and subtract have now been placed inside of this calc module, right? So by default in Rust, every single function that's in a module is private, okay? So what we need to do is we need to say add and subtract need to be public. Now to do that, all we need to do is add pub in front of both of these functions. And when we save this, well, we're still going to get an error. Now, the reason why we're going to get an error here is because add and subtract is still looking for those functions inside of the main scope, right? It's not looking inside of the calc module. We need to explicitly say that we want to do that. So to do that in Rust, you type the name of the module and then the double colons and then the name of the function. All right, and I'll do the same for the one below. And if I save that, now you can see that the error goes away. Cool. Now we still have our call to API out here. That's part of the main one. So if I was to come in here and say I want to call an API, I can still do that, right? Because that's still part of this file and it's still part of the same, well, global module we'll say for now, that is with main. Cool. So if I run this, you can see it works just fine. All right. Now, the thing to understand is print result is inside this module too. But like I said before, by default, they're all private. So what I shouldn't be able to do is go calc and then call print result and pass in, say, any number. By doing this, I should get an error, and I do, right? Because it says there, print result is private. So it knows it's inside a calc. It's saying, yeah, we can see it's there, but you haven't applied the public on the front. If I do this, then it's going to be okay, right? But that's not what we want to do here. We want to keep that print result function to the module because it's used with the add and subtract function and doesn't need to be exposed out to anyone that's calling it. Cool. So let's just remove that. And we'll just make sure that when I run this, it still works. And there we go. Cool. So that is a very simple example of setting up a very basic module in Rust. And we'll continue to expand on this theory in the very next video. So I'll see you then.